Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So I just finished talking about last video, Longshot in the origin of him and Spiral and Mojo. And so I was going to talk about the X-Babies this time, even though I already, like I said, did that video on them Mojo Mayhem. But I just wanted to kind of touch on them. So this is Supersized Annual X-Men 12, and you can see it says guest starring the X-Babies. So like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's, most of the story doesn't involve the X-Babies. So, anyway, you'll see why I picked this one to do because it's kind of fun. It's interesting. So this is after the fall of mutants. So the X-Men are dead. I mean, because after once Roma resurrects the X-Men, then Psylocke no longer has her bionic eyes, or she's invisible to any camera, or that includes Mojo's cameras. So he can't broadcast anymore because she's invisible. So because later in the comic books, I can't remember which issue, but she actually, the Psylocke Quan, emergence in Betsy's original body takes out her eyes and just leaves them for the X-Men, because she doesn't want to be a puppet anymore. Anyway, so you see he's very upset because the X-Men are dead, to everyone, and plus they're invisible to cameras. So he's trying to figure out, okay, what can I do now? For ratings. Like how can I solve this problem, because the X-Men have always been major ratings. So now who am I supposed to get for these ratings? So he's trying to figure out, and like I said, this is why I wanted to do this, because I thought this was interesting. He goes through different X-Men teams and thinks, okay, well, which team would be the best? And it's fun because this is the only issue that you see these different incarnations of the X-Men. So basically, there's this one, which is basically the X-Women. All the characters are women in the issue, which is interesting because this, there's a female Wolverine, and this was way before the X-23 story and everything. So, yeah, all the X-Men are women. So you have Longshot, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Wolverine, Magneto, Havoc, which, I'm sorry, but Colossus as a woman just looks weird. Like, just looks wrong. I mean, all the others look okay, but he just looks wrong. So anyway, he's like, no, next, not that one. Um, and then here's like Transformer X-Men, which is interesting because of course Transformers was super popular in the 80s around that time also. See, what did he call them though? Oh, she just said, his assistant just said, well, a trifle less organic. Didn't call them anything. I guess you couldn't call them robots or anything because you didn't want to infringe on stuff too much. So Mojo says no. And it looks like it's just, well, Havoc, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, and maybe that's Psylocke. It's hard to tell. Like, I can't really tell. And then he calls this X-Men lineup the naughty X-Men. Or he says something a little bit more naughty than nice. So that's Wolverine, who looks more like Puck at that size. Girl with the red hair, according to this lineup, I don't know who that's supposed to be. Storm, Rogue, Dazzler, Colossus. I guess that's Nightcrawler. right there in the striped pants. Anyway, yeah, I don't know who the redhead's supposed to be because um, there's no redhead in this team of X-Men right there. And then animals, where it looks like Colossus is a gorilla, which makes sense. Longshot is a bird of some kind. Rogue is a badger, maybe. Havoc is a bunny. Wolverine is like a bulldog. Um, Dazzler is a pig. It looks like Psylocke's a weasel. And Storm is maybe a cat. Because she's drawn a lot with cat eyes, especially at this time period. So maybe a cat. And then he settles on, the X-Babies. So I just thought that was fun to show you the different origins that Mojo was trying to do. So the X-Baby, he puts in Longshot, or Longshot's there, and he's like, no, I don't want Longshot. And so he kills Longshot, and the other X-Babies, especially especially Rogue and Dazzler, are upset. So they rebel and run away. And then you see at the end, the X-Babies end up with Rita, and she's like, I'm going to take care of you guys, but I might regret this. So anyway, I just thought that was fun just to see the different incarnations of the, of the X-Men Mojo goes through to try to figure out which one. So in this one, and it's interesting because a lot of covers say this, because you demanded it, the return of Longshot, or I think Dazzler, the last issue of Dazzler says, because you demanded it, the final issue of Dazzler, or something like that. I know that one time when Iceman comes back, it says, because you demanded it, the return of Iceman. I can't remember what issue that is, but anyway. So, oh, and see, this is what I was talking about with the Longshot action figure, to have one of his eyes, or one of his, or like a head swap, to have it where he's using his powers. I thought that would be, that would be pretty cool. But they didn't give us that option. So, I wonder if they did that with the retro carded one. If they made one of his eyes, where he's using his powers, because I didn't get that one, because I was trying to. Well, I ran out of room on all my shelves to get more figures, so I tried to be good. But then of course, then the VHS ones came out, and then the which you could take out of the box, and then the and then, of course, I built my X-Men mansion for my VH. Anyway, basically, I didn't get that one, so I don't know. So let me know if that is true, because that would be cool. So basically, we've come up on Longshot, and this is 1992. So we go from like 85 to 92. And I mean, he was in, I think Exiles and X Factor for a while. And then he kind of just disappeared. Like, same with Dazzler. She was like a member of one of the teams for a while. And then she disappeared for a while. And then she came back, like Extreme X-Men. You see her like leading a team. So Longshot and Dazzler are kind of two of those characters. Of course, they have their own story with Mojo and Mojo World and the rebellion and stuff. So two of those characters that kind of just pop in every so often, for the most part. So what I thought was interesting is you see a yellow brick road, and you see Beast talking like Scooby-Doo, because he's like, everything is an R. Rojo instead of Mojo. That's what he says. Anyway, so again, they're like, we're off to see the wizard, because he is a wizard after all. And what Mojo's saying, like, why didn't I think of this before? Like, casting everyone's favorite mutants in pre-existing roles in some of Earth's most popular film. So that's what this is going on, like the Wizard of Oz, obviously. And he has Professor Xavier captured because in X-Men 8, he captured him and captured the X-Men and made, some of the X-Men slaves in order to um, have them star in his show because, of course, it's all about ratings. And so, we see Dazzler, he's back, she's back. And I think this is a cool depiction of her using her powers, like just pure light beams, light energy. I think that's really a really cool, yeah, depiction of her. And then she runs into Longshot, and he doesn't know who she is because he's been, brainwashed again. And so she's, upset about that, of course. And then Longshot snaps out of it like he usually does, and then basically has the Wizard of Oz X-Men facing the other X-Men, and Professor Xavier just has to watch everything. He doesn't even get a say in anything, and supposedly Dazzler died, but she's found by this guy. And in the back of this issue, you have a random story about Maverick, just, a couple of pages long, which, yeah, like I said, just a random story for whatever reason. So we go on to the next issue. Like I said, I'm just kind of skimming through this because, I kind of already covered the X-Babies, but some of this is fun. So, yeah. So, of course, like I said, the X-Men versus the X-Men. And this guy is actually Mojo 2, the sequel, and that's what he calls himself because that's what he is. And he was created by Mojo, to further Mojo's, um, what's it called? Oh wow, I'm drawing a blank. Basically, to further Mojo himself. Like, I'm so awesome and so great. I created a clone of me because I'm so awesome. But this clone actually has like compassion, which Mojo does not have. So that makes him different. So basically, Mojo 2, the sequel, rescues Dazzler, who they think is dead. And so the X-Men are fighting each other. And like Lila has been given wings so she can fight. So it's interesting because he says, Lila, all of you, we shouldn't be battling each other since your rival in this dimension. You have been Pawns of Mojo recast in an obscure Earth movie. Obscure Earth movie. Like, people don't know The Wizard of Oz. Like, everyone knows The Wizard of Oz. Even if you're like super young and have never seen it, you know The Wizard of Oz. You know that movie because it's so iconic, so like ingrained into America and like our story that everyone knows that story. Anyway, recast in an obscure Earth movie that you might entertain the spineless ones, and look who you get to perform your death scene with. Lucky me. That's what Lila says. Anyway, so they're fighting each other. Psylocke, the professor's trying to get to Psylocke, because of course, like he's professor trying to use Psylocke's powers in order to break free. So they're trying to break into the dome where Mojo is, but it's impenetrable apparently because he invented his own Mojo-inium, his own whatever metal, I guess. and it's trademarked as a little TM after it. So they rethink their strategy because the professor was able to free Psylocke from mind control. And so she uses Cyclops in order to try to break into the dome to get at Mojo and to release everyone else from the control and save Professor Xavier. That doesn't work, so she uses the optic blast to free Rogue and blast her basically out of the range of Mojo. So they're still fighting, you know. They're still fighting for entertainment. And basically, Dazzler burst in on Mojo with Mojo to the sequel. And they free everybody. And Dazzler and Longshot reunite. And basically what they say is what we learn is that Dazzler's pregnant, of course, with Longshot's baby, and it's Shatterstar, who's joins X-Force. And it's more complicated than that, but we'll just leave it at that. So basically, she tells Mojo too, since we're going to be busy raising this baby, it'll be up to you to rule this planet fairly. And he's like, I would not have it any other way. So, and then you have this cool, 2-page spread of the team. Because, of course, this is Jim Lee art. So, and of course, his images are iconic. And then that's the end of it. And yeah, this is where Dazzler says, Shatterstar, are you kidding me? She's like, I'm not going to name my baby Shatterstar. And then again, you have another, little Maverick origin story. I can't remember if they were doing a mini-series on him at the time or what. Anyway, so really quick, talk about the X-Babies. This is 46. So the X-Babies haven't been seen in X-Men 46. This X-Babies haven't been seen in years and years and years. This is 1995. Like I said, I'm going to skip most of it. And here you go. Here's the first page they appear on because they're hiding under the table at this. It looks like a strip club. I'm not sure it is, but it looks like it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a strip club. So they're hiding under the table. Because they're hiding from Magog and Gog, who have been sent to Earth to basically, collect them, terminate them, because that's what they do. And then you see Bobby and Jean are at this bookstore, and they're talking, having a serious conversation, and you hear little voices like, I think that's them. No, I don't think so. And then you see little X-Baby Storm and Iceman fighting and arguing. And Bobby says, baby, Bobby, which sounds weird. Ooh, look what you did. And Storm says, me, by the godling, because she usually says by the goddess. But since she's little, she's a kid, she's going to say by the godling, meaning young. She's like, I'm innocent. And she's like, no way. And Bobby says, side Storm doesn't speak in contractions. This Storm does. Can't do, can't, basically being kids and just arguing, being kids. So basically, Gambit and Bishop hook up with the X-Babies and they're like, well, what are you guys doing here? And he's like, well, Cyclops is like, well, there's a new rogue because Cyclops has a lisp, and I can't I can't read you the lisp, but he has a lisp. So basically Gambit's asking them, so what are you guys doing here? What's going on? And Rogue says, new regime, new policy. And Cyclops is like, we're gonna get axed. Like, we're not part of the program anymore. And then we see, Gog and Magog, they're here for the X-Babies, to terminate them, to cancel the X-Babies. So, and then the next issue, like I said, I'm just going to briefly go through it. And they're like, run! Oh my gosh! Run away! I mean, these pages, I just love the pages. The coloring, the artist style is just fun. And here we have, so again, Gambit and Bishop protect the X-Babies from Gog and Magog because they're trying to, cancel them. And then we have back to Storm and Iceman in the bookstore, still arguing, still can't get along. And then look at their little faces. Oh, like, how can you say no to those little faces? They're like, please help us. We don't want to be killed. And then they go back to arguing. And you see them hiding with the stuffed animals. It's interesting because, like, the older issues, there's a lot more dialogue boxes, a lot more dialogue. And here, comparatively, there's not as much. More action pages. Still fighting to save the X-Babies. And then they hit Gog and Magog with water pistols. Like, I guess not everyone has their powers at this point. Because obviously Iceman does, because he can change into ice. But I guess not, I guess not everyone does. See, because there's Iceman, little Iceman, and Iceman, and then there's Storm. She's flying, so obviously those two have their powers. And then this page, we see this mysterious figure, and Gog and Magog say, the light in my eyes. And Jean's like, does that seem, Bobby says, am I the only one who recognizes that kind of power? Or recognizes that power? And Jean says, not by a long shot, literally. And then there's Dazzler. And he says, please, Your Majesty. And she says, look, I'm not going to tell you again. The name is Dazzler. She dropped the Dazzler. Because remember when she, like in the 80s, when she introduces herself as a act, she calls herself the Dazzler. And she says, you want to follow my husband? And the husband is in quotation marks. Longshot, around and kneel and bow and curtsy, fine. That's a career choice. But I'm not having any part of the new political structure that's being set up. Again, I'm here for the kids, period. Now back off. He's like, as you wish, Your Majesty. Well, your will is our way. And so basically she makes them disappear. Like it says, in a flash of light from Alison Blair's fingertips, both Gog and Magog are gone. And the kids are scared of her. And she, and Jean's like, Allison's a friend of ours. I don't believe she'd hurt you. And basically, she talks to the kids and says, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to take you back. And there's all these people, who don't believe in this new regime change and want to get rid of everything that's reminiscent of Mojo from, the world. So I just want to protect you guys, but how can I protect you if I can't find you? So what I'd like for you to do is to come live with me and Longshot in the palace. So then we can protect you there. And they're like, well, okay, I want to live in the palace. So Bobby starts to say, you know, um, with all these mouths to feed, do you think that's a good idea? But, Gene kind of elbows him. And the kids, Dazzler takes the kids, they leave. And Bobby's like, what's the deal? Why did you elbow me? I was just going to ask how the baby was doing. And Gene says, that's just it, Bobby. I didn't sense another life within her. Because remember at the end of X-Men 11, which we just like briefly ran through, they were talking about the baby and that they were going to name it Shatterstar. But anyway, Gene says, that's just it, Bobby. I didn't sense another life within her. And it seems obvious to me that she was distressed. If maybe she's one of our own, maybe we owe it to her to bring her back to our world. And what we owe her, Bishop, is what we all want, Gene says, to be free to find her way. So basically, the thing is, the baby, like, she's not pregnant. She doesn't have a baby. But they never say exactly. Like, it's another one of those things that it's complicated, time travel and all that. So, oh, gotta love time travel. Well, it's kind of like the whole Cable thing and being taken into the future because the technovirus and it raised there and et cetera, et cetera. It's a mess. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that video. Like I said, I just kind of sped through a bunch of stuff because it all related to each other, but I didn't want to do like a separate video on each of those comics because there wasn't enough like to talk about. Or I mean, like I said, it seems like in older issues there's a lot more dialogue and we find out a lot more like intimate things about the X-Men and what's going on because of all the dialogue and the backstory. And a lot of the newer issues, it's a lot of action, which is it's good, but it's not like I need to sit here and explain, panel by panel what's going on. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you will join me in the future. Subscribe and join me in the future for more videos. Until then, bye.